Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In this video I'd like to look at some of the setups we were having a look at in our training webinar for MTPredictor customers yesterday, and I'd like to follow up in a bit more detail on some of these. In particular, how our DP is a trend termination. In other words, it rather than our TS 1, 2, 3, 4, which are ABC corrections, which aim to get you in the direction of the trend, the DPs are aimed at finding the end of a trend. And as you can see here on the NQ, this was the high of the day yesterday, and you can see our automatic DP cell caught the very high of the day very nicely indeed. But the trouble with catching the end of a trend is you never know that the trend is actually over, and this is why I want to have a look at this. You can see here we had a couple of setups here earlier, both of which would have been taken in and stopped out. So you'd have had two losing trades here, and then came to your winning trade later on. But this is why we use correct position sizing, because if I place our analysis on this setup here, you can see the market took you in. Remember, our position sizing uses or varies the number of contracts, lots, or shares to keep our initial risk small under control. So even though you'd made two losing trades earlier from here, this trade, even at the first target, was plus 4.6R, or in other words, 4.6 times the initial risk. If you were actually managing this trade yourself, you'd have seen that as the market reached the first target, the STF was strong, i.e. beyond our strength band, therefore you'd have used the ATR stop to trail it, and it would have probably been stopped out around about here somewhere for nearer 5.8R, so even a bigger profit. And this is the key to successful trading, is when you're wrong, keep the losses small, when you're right, keep the profits large. But the point I want to make is when you're doing trend termination setups, you will get lots more losing trades. This is why we don't suggest it unless you are an advanced MTPredictor trader. And normally what I suggest is that we have to have other reasons for wanting to take the end of trying to catch the end of a trend. Normally these are the end of a 5-wave sequence, and I know a couple of our customers were looking at the YM on a 5-minute chart yesterday, and you can see here again we had our two DP setups here, both of which would have ended up in losing trades. So this is the problem with trying to catch the end of a trend. It's always very tricky. This is why I say it's for experts only. Now, of course, overall, because of our position sizing, even though we'd have had a -1 and a -1 loss there, this standard TS2 setup on our blue STF from here would have made plus 2.4R. So even though you had two losing trades, again, the profit would have been larger than the losses, which have kept you okay overall. But the reason I went to the YM is because some of our customers were looking at the 15-minute chart, and they spotted the 15-minute chart was on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, was up here in a potential wave 5 resistance, so therefore they thought it could be a good one to potentially take. And that's perfectly acceptable. So these are the two exceptions that I tend to suggest, is that you want to either be at larger degree support or resistance, in this case resistance, or at the end of a 5-wave sequence on the chart you're taking. So this is why I was saying yesterday that because the 15-minute charts were well, not all in agreement, it was only the YM was at resistance. If I look at the ES wasn't. If I was looking at the NQ, again the NQ wasn't really at resistance either. It was quite a difficult position to do. So that's why I was saying yesterday, yes, you can try to catch the end of the trend, but it is a dangerous game to play. So this is really why I wanted to do this video, is if you are going to try and catch the end of a trend, do realize that it is very hard, and you will have, or quite often you'll have, some losing trades before you catch the ultimate high. But coming into this one here, you can see if you do catch the ultimate high, then of course the market will actually move quite nicely, and hopefully this is where position sizing will come in. If I look at this low here, you can see this was actually the end of a nice ABC correction coming down this onto this low here. If I actually go to the 5-minute chart, excuse me, on the NQ, you can see a very similar pattern, and therefore we had our first DP sell here, our second one up here, again catching the high really nicely. the market coming down into the first target. But what I thought was interesting on the 5-minute chart is you actually had a automatic TS4 buy setup here on the long side. So if you were short the NQ, then the most obvious place to stop and reverse would have been at this TS4 buy setup. So this would have given you a nice plus 5-hour profit. Now this first attempt at the TS4 would have made a minus 1 hour loss. We then had a second attempt down here, which actually caught the very low of the day, and this then allowed the market to rally up into the close, and the close would have been about plus 1.2. So again, position sizing was helping us out in that even though we had a losing trade here, this profitable trade at plus 1.2R just slightly made more than the losing trade and would have put you back just into slight profit overall. So as you can see, we do have some good setups here. If we look at the day as a whole here on the 5-minute Nasdaq chart, our TS4 buy setup caught the low of the day and our DP sell caught the very high of the day, which is very nice. So I think the message for today in today's video is that normally I suggest people should focus on our TS 1, 2, 3, 4 trade setups, because they are normally in the direction of the trend, because they are the end of an ABC corrections. If I put the analysis on here, you can see, whoops, missed it. You can see that we have our A, B, C corrections. But if you want to do trend termination trade setups, which is our DP setups here, yes, they can be spectacular. Like we've seen on the NQ here, nailing the very high of the day, very, very nice. But the word of caution is that, as we've already seen on the 3-minute chart, you can get a lot of losing trades before you catch the ultimate high. So this is why we suggest DP setups are normally for the more experienced traders among you who are willing to accept losing trades. But as I've already said, the losses are kept small, so when the profits come through, they are large in relation to the small losses. The best way to try and do this is, if you are looking to try and catch the end of a trend, I normally suggest that you should only do it when you're at the end of a 5-wave sequence on the market you are trading, or at your larger degree support or resistance. And as I said in the training webinar yesterday, it wasn't that clear on either of those counts. So trying to catch the high yesterday would have been a very hard thing to do. The only other last word of advice is, if you are trying to do this and you want to try and get a little bit of safety in your analysis, as soon as the market goes past your 100% initial risk, which it did here, bring your stops to break even. It just means you can be a little bit more aggressive with your trade management strategy and hopefully protect your profits earlier. It doesn't mean to say that you'll avoid all the losing trades, as you can see in these two, because they didn't get anywhere near the 100% initial risk before they were stopped out. So this is the lesson for today, is if you are trying to pick the end of a trend, and our DP trade setups are designed just to do that, be very careful in how you take these, and always be aware that they are catching the end of a trend, so you are likely to have more losing trades before the ultimate high or low comes in. But because the position sizing will make that profit much larger, you should be alright over time. Otherwise, look to the large degree trend or the pattern on that particular time frame to add that little bit extra security.